Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll explain how to calculate the labor cost variance and its subdivisions. We have a simple illustration here where a factory working for 50 hours a week employs 100 workers on a job work. The standard rate is shillings 1,000 an hour, and the standard output is 200 units per gang hour. During a week in June, 10 employees were paid at shillings 800 an hour, 5 at shillings 1,200 an hour. The rest of the employees were paid at the standard rate. The actual number of units produced was 10,200 units. You're required to calculate the labor cost variances, explain the causes of the wage rate variances. Labor cost variance. Now, this is the difference between what the output should have cost and what it did cost in terms of labor. So we compare our actual labor cost with the standard labor cost to arrive at the labor cost variance. We have been told in the question that 10 employees course, each employee works for 50 hours in a week. Don't forget that. We are paid shillings 800 an hour. We are paid shillings 800 an hour. So meaning that on these 10 employees, the company incurred shillings how much? Let's find out how much was incurred on the 10 employees. So the company incurred 400,000 on the 10 employees. We have 5 employees who also work for 50 hours each. Each hour they paid 1,200. So here the company incurred how much on these 5 employees? The company incurred shillings 300,000. Then you also have the rest of the employees who were, those are 85 employees, because in total the company has 100 workers or 100 employees. These also work for 50 hours each, but they were paid at the standard rate per hour, and the standard rate per hour is shillings 1,000. So on these employees, the company incurred 4,250,000. So meaning that in total, the company incurred shillings how much? The company incurred total cost on labor of shillings 4,950,000. That was the actual labor cost incurred during a week. But now we have to find out what is the standard labor cost. What is the standard labor cost? Now, to come up with the standard labor cost, standard labor cost. Standard labor cost. Now, the standard labor cost will equal to the standard hours for actual output standard actual hours for the actual output, standard hours for the actual output times our standard rate per hour times the standard rate per hour. We have to get the standard hours for the actual output, then you multiply by the standard rate per hour. Of course, I'll start by getting the standard hours per unit. Standard hours per unit. To get the standard hours per unit, we have to get the total standard hours. Total standard hours over the total standard output. Of course, in the question, we know very well that this factory has 50 hours a week and it employs 100 hours from a job work, meaning that the total standard hours in a week, those are 100 workers, but remember each worker will work for 50 hours in a week. 100 times 50, those are 5,000 hours. So we have the total standard hours, we have our 50 hours, but of course we know that we have 100 employees. Then the standard output, we know very well that in a week, we have 50 hours in a week, but the standard output is 200 units per gang hour. So we have to get 200 units per gang hour times the 50 hours we have in a week to get our standard output. So this is getting 50 times 200. So meaning that to get the standard hours per unit, we get 50 times 100, that gives us 5,000 hours over 10,000 units. Therefore, on each unit we produce, we should be using 0.5 hours per unit. In terms of standards, each unit this company produces, they should be using 0.5 hours, okay, to produce a single unit. Therefore, our standard hours for actual output, standard hours for actual output, in a week, the factory produced 200 units. And if each unit is taking 0.5, then it means that those units, the 10,200 units, they should take 5,100 hours. They should take 5,100 hours. Therefore, our standard labor, the standard labor cost will equal the standard hours for the actual output, which we have as 5,100 hours. But the standard rate per hour is shillings 1,000. Therefore, this gives us shillings 5,100,000. That is our standard labor cost. So the standard labor cost, we have shillings 5,000, 5,100,000. 5,100,000. So you see we have the actual cost, the actual labor cost, and then you also have our standard labor cost. Now, what is the variance? The variance is the difference between these two. So our actual labor cost is 4,950,000. When you compare it with the 5.1, you get a variance of 5.1. To get the variance, we get the standard labor cost of 5.1 minus the actual labor cost of 4,950,000. We get a variance of 150,000. Now, this variance of 150,000, we need to show whether it is favorable or adverse. This variance is favorable. Why is it favorable? You see, this is the standard cost. This is what we should have incurred, but we actually incurred 4,950,000. So we incurred less. We are incurring less. The standard should have been 5,100,000. This is what we should have incurred, but we actually incurred 4,950,000. So this variance is favorable. That is the labor cost variance. We have shillings 150,000 favorable. However, the labor cost variance is subdivided into the labor rate variance and the labor efficiency variance. Now, the labor efficiency variance is the difference between the standard cost of the hours that should have been worked and the standard cost of the hours that were worked. So let us see how we can calculate the labor efficiency variance. We know very well that we have produced 10 to 100 units in a week. So 10 to 100 units, 10 to 100 units should have taken. This should have taken how many hours? Of course, to get the hours, these units should have taken. We know that we are producing 10 to 100 units. And we have seen from our computation here that the standard hours per unit is 0.5. The standard hours per unit is 0.5. So each unit should take 0.5 hours to be produced. So 10 to 100 times 0.5, 10 to 100 times 0.5, this gives us 5,100 hours. Those are the hours that should have been taken if we are to produce the 10 to 100 units. But did take the 10 to 100 units they have produced in a week, did it take 5,000 hours? How would you get the 5,000 hours? Remember, we have 50 hours a week, but we are employing 100 hours. We are employing 100 workers. So if we have 100 workers and each worker is to work for 50 hours in a week, it means that in a week we have 5,000 hours. Okay. And during a week, of course, all the 100 workers were actively in production where they produced 10,200 units. So during that, meaning that the 10,200 units were produced using the 5,000 hours in a week. However, those 10,200 units should have taken 5,100 hours, meaning that we have our labor efficiency variance in hours. We have 100 hours. We have 100 hours, but this variance is favorable because we are using less hours. We are using 5,000 hours instead of 5,100 hours. This is labor efficiency variance, labor efficiency variance in hours. So the labor efficiency variance in hours is 100. And these are favorable simply because we are using less hours compared to what we should have used. Of course, now these hours have to be expressed in terms of money, so we have to multiply by the standard rate per hour. The standard rate per hour is shillings 1,000. Shillings 1,000. The standard rate per hour is shillings 1,000. Therefore, now we can get our labor efficiency variance in terms of shillings. Here we get 100 hours times the standard rate per hour, which is 1,000, giving us the labor efficiency variance in shillings. Labor efficiency variance in shillings. Then you also have to look at what we call the labor rate variance. This is favorable, don't forget. You have to put a capital F to show that the variance is favorable. Then let's look at the labor stroke the wage rate efficiency variance. Now, when we talk about the labor or the wage rate variance, this is the difference between what the labor did cost and what it should have cost. If you're using 5,000 labor hours to produce 10,200 units, these hours should have cost how much? And what did they actually cost? That's what we are looking at when it comes to the labor rate variance. When it comes to the labor rate variance. Let's compute this and we'll see. So we have 5,000 hours should have cost. Should have cost. 5,000 hours should have cost. We know that each hour costs 1,000 on standard. I mean that these hours should cost, that is 5,000 times 1,000. Those hours should cost 5 millions. They should cost 5 millions. But did cost 4,950,000. Remember, we have our actual labor cost as 4,950,000. Therefore, we have a labor stroke the wage rate variance. Of course, this is in terms of money value of shillings. How much? Let's get the difference between these two. That is getting the standard 5 millions minus the actual, giving us 50,000. This variance is favorable because they are spending less compared to what they should have incurred. The standard is 5 millions, but they are incurring 4,950,000. Just to do simple formatting here. decimal places, 0,000 separators. Yeah, we see the actual labor cost is 4,950,000. The standard is 5,100,000. 5,100,000, giving us a variance of 150,000, which is favorable. Then the labor efficiency variance is favorable. That is 1 million. That is 100,000. We have 100,000. That is our labor efficiency variance that is favorable. Then the labor wage rate, the labor stroke the wage rate variance is also favorable. That is 50,000. The standards are greater than the actual costs that were incurred. By the way, when you add the labor efficiency variance with the labor rate variance, you should get the labor cost variance. Okay, that is if you want to verify 100,000 plus 50,000 favorable gives you 150,000 favorable. Then we also need to look at some of the causes of the labor rate variance. Causes of the labor rate variance, which is the same as the wage rate variance. Of course, the wage rate variance occurs due to the following causes. First of all, we may look at new workers. New workers not being allowed. New workers not being allowed full normal wage rates. Full normal wage rates. So that can be one of the causes for the labor rate variance. Payments of unplanned overtime or bonuses. We can also look at the change in the methods. Change in the method of wage payments. I.e., sometimes you may find that the standards may be based on the piece rate, methods. The standards based on piece rate method and a day rate payments and day rates payments made. You're paying your workers on a rate per day, but yet in the standards, a piece rate method was used. So when there are changes in the method of wage payment, then there is likely to be labor rate variances. Then you can also look at higher or lower grades of workers being paid. Higher or lower grades of workers being paid. Okay, being used. Let us use being used. Higher or lower grades of workers being paid. Okay, being paid. than planned. Than planned. Maybe due to emergencies. Due to emergencies. Or quality of production, by the way. Or quality of production. Then we can look at what else. These are how many. We can raise like 5. We can also look at this should have been higher or lower grades of workers being used, not paid. Yeah. Change in the grade of workers you're using, being used, being used than planned. Then I can also look at higher rates. Higher rates being paid. Higher rates being paid than planned. etc. So those are some of the causes of the labor rate variance or the wage rate variance, plus many other causes that you may find. Thank you for watching. Thank you for learning with Senior Huntington. Bye-bye.